Hello everyone, my name is Sliding Catch. Welcome to my channel, and thank you for joining me as we begin the Chicago Bulls franchise on NBA 2K. This is a series I've wanted to start for a long time, and this is a channel I've wanted to start for a long time, and we're finally doing it. So the Bulls are the team that I'm going to be taking over, and I think there's a lot of interesting challenges here. An iconic brand, one of the most storied and prestigious franchises in the NBA. Everyone knows about the 6 championships and no losses. They just ran the 90s more than any team in any sport has owned a decade. And that has catapulted them among the NBA's elite. Yet their all-time winning percentage sits at just .510, which isn't bad per se, but it's the 12th best in the league. Certainly not a spot where you would expect a team with such a great reputation to be in. But that's largely because they haven't had a true franchise cornerstone since Michael Jordan left. And that's certainly not the fault of the general manager and their drafting ability. Beginnings of a championship level roster started when they drafted players like Kirk Hinrich, Ben Gordon, Luol Deng. They even had Tyson Chandler as a rookie. They eventually brought it all together with obviously the number 1 overall pick, Derrick Rose, and a defensive anchor in Joakim Noah, and eventually acquiring Carlos Boozer from the Utah Jazz. That one, we all know how that didn't work out with Derrick Rose's injuries, just unfortunate. Even despite that, had they had a young rising star in Jimmy Butler, and he looked to be the player who could save the Bulls after Derrick Rose just didn't work out. And unfortunately, they didn't really see a route to a championship with Butler at the helm. They just didn't feel like the rest of their roster was up to snuff. So they trade him for Zach LaVine and a pick that they later on used to select Lauri Markkanen, which on paper now that we can see how much Lauri Markkanen has broken out, that looks like a great trade. And, well, to be honest, it hasn't really worked out for either side, even though all the 3 players in that trade are very good. But, Jimmy Butler didn't end up being what the Timberwolves needed, and Zach LaVine, well, it's yet to be seen. He has broken out. He's become just a dynamite scorer. Lauri Markkanen, obviously no longer with the team. I think they were a little bit impatient with him, but also maybe he just didn't really have a route to a breakout with this team. I think he may have needed a change of scenery. But, LaVine's breakout was certainly gave fans a glimmer of hope, and they decided to build around him by trading for DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic to form somewhat of a big 3. And it kind of worked for a little bit. They started off the 22 season really hot in that first year of that big 3. It was largely due to stifling perimeter defense led by Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso. And unfortunately, though, the hot start eventually gave way to the law of averages. It became apparent they benefited from an easy schedule and really couldn't beat any serious opponents. After a decent start in 2022, in which they trailed off and eventually lost in 5 to Milwaukee, they missed the playoffs in 2023 with a largely identical roster. Now the question is worth asking, did they trade for the right guys to play with LaVine? Or was it just never going to work in the first place and they overvalued LaVine's potential to be the guy? Again, I don't think that question has been answered yet, and I think it'll be answered after this season, which is the final year of DeRozan's deal. And with the salary situation this team has, I honestly don't see them bringing him back. Overall, the Bulls still are one of the most storied franchises in all of basketball, regardless of their winning percentage. They've had no shortage of talent, that's for sure. But unfortunately, luck and just poor management has squandered every chance they've had, since Jordan, of course. So with that said, let's get into the roster overview for this season. So obviously you got the big 3 still intact. You got DeRozan. You know what he's going to do. Mid-range, maestro. He's a threat to go for 30, 40, 50 every night. And he does it in a way that no other player, like he does it in a way that's more extreme than even other mid-range specialists in the league. Like it's almost like he wakes up and he decides to take a couple threes, but most of the days he doesn't do that. And he's going to get his points from his spots. And for that reason, he's one of my favorite players. And according to 2K, he is the best player on this team, even better than Zach LaVine. Now, LaVine, he just glides through the air. I think he's going to be such a fun player to use. And unless we decide to just blow it up completely, he's got 3 years left on his deal, and I think that he can be a number 2 option on a championship team. So if we can keep him around and work the salaries around so that we can not build around him, but like still keep him as part of the equation, I would love to see that happen. So that brings us to the third member of the big three, Nikola Vucevic. He's a 2010 machine, and the talent is obvious, but he's not exactly a fan favorite among Bulls fans. You know, he's a defensive liability sometimes, and he also just plays outside a bit too much, which, you know, he's not an amazing shooter. He's not the worst shooter in the world. He's respectable, but I think most fans, they want to see him banging inside a little bit more. So Patrick Williams is probably the most exciting player on this team when you factor in youth and potential. He was compared to Kawhi on draft day. He hasn't quite lived up to that yet, but he's only 22. He just plays a little bit passively right now. You know, he's not a ball handler like Kawhi ended up being. And I think it's a little bit unfair to make that comparison right now. But right now, he is a great shooter. He's a great perimeter defender for his position. And I think that once he builds some confidence, he can be a good glue guy. Like any player with his archetype is bound to get a good payday at some point. So Patrick Williams, really looking forward to see him developing. But at the end of the day, this young core is not exactly impressive. It feels like this team is stuck in the middle. You know, they have their stars. You know, those stars, they want to compete. They want to make the playoffs. And these young guys, like, some of them just don't seem to be ready yet. You know, Patrick Williams and the other young pieces like Kobe White, you know, they can be inconsistent at times, and I just don't think that they're the right role players for a championship team. And I think they need many years to get to that level. So just an interesting mix of talent on this team. Looking at some other young pieces, as I just mentioned, Kobe White, athletic, solid shooting, but streaky guard. He lost the starting spot to Dosunmu last year, which I'll talk about next. But he shot more efficiently off the bench, and I plan on keeping him in that role. Ayo Dosunmu, the hometown kid, went to Illinois. He's from Chicago, and he started a good chunk of last season, and I plan on continuing to do that this year with Lonzo Ball out for at least the vast majority of the season, probably all of it. But Dosunmu, in my opinion, he's an all-around player. He does most of his scoring inside the arc, which these days isn't ideal for a point guard, but I think he just needs to carve out an identity. You know, I think he's solid at pretty much everything, which is a good foundation for a young player. But I look forward to developing him into just a player with an identity. And this year, you know, he's going to get a lot of playing time from me. This team just has they have a lot of interesting guards, you know, including LaVine, including Kobe White. Someone who's really a fan favorite is, of course, Alex Caruso, the bald mamba, as everyone calls him. He can do a lot of what Lonzo Ball can do when he's healthy, but Caruso, just an on-ball and off-ball pest, just never seems to run out of energy, is sneaky strong and big for a guard at his height, and I like a switchable guard, a guard that can switch onto a big man and still hold his own. Like those players don't really come a dime a dozen. So I would like to keep him around if possible. And we've pretty much gotten through the majority of the regular rotation. You know, another young piece, Dalen Terry, their draft pick last year. I also think that something's there with him. He's super versatile. In fact, he might be the most versatile player on this team. Like I've seen some websites list him even as a point guard, a point forward. Like I feel like he can genuinely play the 1 through the 4, and he can defend, he can rebound. He just needs to round out his game with a jumper, but really like huge triple-double potential given the playing time. I really like him, and I also plan on giving him playing time, like maybe sporadically, but he played in like maybe half the games last year. I do want to bump that up just a little bit. And maybe if we make some trades, if we decide to blow it up, I might even have him start some games. So Javon Carter, which really, you know, the Bulls really like this archetype of player. Another just super pesky point of attack defender. And he's known for really picking up ball handlers in the backcourt. Like when he's on the court, he can do that just nonstop and never lose energy. And I'm definitely going to, when he's on the court, I'm definitely going to do that with him. They did draft Julian Phillips. Not a high draft pick, but he kind of fits the mold. He kind of falls in line with a lot of the players that the Bulls have been picking so far, like Terry, Patrick Williams, just a long, lanky wing. This offense is a little bit concerning, but hopefully he can develop a little bit in the G League, because I don't really see a route to playing time for him this season. Their two-way guys are pretty interesting. Adama Sanogo, recent NCAA champion with UConn. He made the news for practicing Ramadan during March Madness, which I think is really cool. Just seems like a really cool guy. Hopefully we can get some highlights with him this season. But yeah, I just really like him. He was such a beast in college. And honestly, that's the bulk of the players that'll be playing this year. Lonzo Ball, I'm rooting for him. And if possible, I would like to bring him back, because there's a chance in real life that he might not play again. And, that makes me really sad. Like basketball fans in my age, like in our 20s, late teens, like we've been following him since high school. Like back in the Overtime Ball Is Life mixtape days. And like despite his loud dad, like Lonzo is just consistently such a quiet, just humble guy. I'm rooting for him. And I know that in 2K that rarely happens, where injuries end your career. So I expect him to come back, and his ratings might take a little bit of a hit. He might be like a 78, 79 instead of an 80, but I don't think this is the end for Lonzo. Let's now take a quick look at the salary cap table for this team. Definitely not in the greatest spot, but with DeRozan coming off the books pretty soon, I guess it could be worse. LaVine was signed to a max deal, which I'm not mad at. I like Zach LaVine, and he's in his prime, and he's consistently a great scorer. Like, I guess he has the reputation of just having empty stats, and sure, he could probably be a little bit better of a playmaker, but I don't really believe in empty stats. I think it's really all about roster construction. Like, as long as we can build a roster around Zach LaVine that can cover up his weaknesses, like, it'll be all right. And every star player has a weakness. Even the most complete players do. Like Jokic, he's certainly not a player who can like anchor a defense all by himself. So they had to get defensive specialists to play around him, like Aaron Gordon and KCP, Bruce Brown. and that really helped him out. And that really helped his reputation as a defender as well. You know, he's not like, now that he has his championship, he's not going to be thought of as just a defensive liability where that his inability to defend is going to be his downfall. No, he has his ring, and like, if Zach LaVine is able to be a second best player on a championship team, I think that stigma is going to be over. Devin Booker had the empty stats stigma before his team became the best team in the league with him as the best player. You know, all he needed was someone to take a little bit of the ball handling pressure off of him, which was Chris Paul. And now it'll be Bradley Beal. And, you know, obviously they have Kevin Durant, but with how much KD gets injured these days, like, oftentimes Booker's still going to be the best player on that team. So at the end of the day, I think the eye test shows me that Zach LaVine is deserving of a max contract. And DeRozan, honestly, he's paid less than what I expected. Only $28 million for a guy who can get 30 a night. It's not bad. And the fact that he's on an expiring deal, I'm okay with that. But that means this is really the last year for this team to contend. You know, I am really looking forward to this year, because usually in a rebuild you start off bad, but with the Bulls, the rebuild really hasn't started yet. So there is a sliver of a chance for this team to put it together, make the playoffs this year. But really, after this year, time's basically up. And if we can't win it all, well then, back to the drawing board. But back to salaries. Lonzo Ball's got a player option. If he knows how much faith in him that I have, I think he would take that player option. So chances are we're going to be paying him $21 million next year, and hopefully he'll be able to regain that shooting touch. And I think he's capable of that, even though he'll probably have to shake off the rust at first. Vucevic, we definitely got to do something about this, because I'm not the biggest fan of him. I'm a bigger fan of just a Nicholas Claxton archetype of center. I don't need really my centers to be able to shoot. Oftentimes they don't even shoot well in simulation anyway in 2K My NBA, even if they have good shooting attributes. It's just the fact that they're a big man. Like, it's almost like 2K is biased against their shooting ability. But regardless of that, it makes sense that he's paid this much, but I just don't think he's a wise investment for this team. So I might look to trade him away even this year if we can get someone else in return that is of any value at all. Kobe White locked up for the next 3 years, and all in all, for his age, this is pretty team friendly. I'd like to keep him around if possible, but I would like to see him take a leap and be able to be placed into the starting lineup and still perform at a high level. So far, you know, he's been inconsistent. Like, he can play out of control at times. He sometimes only plays at 100% speed and doesn't know how to be patient. So hopefully that can be fixed. Patrick Williams is going to be looking for an extension after this year. I didn't realize that he needed one so quickly, but I guess it's time. We need to decide if Patrick Williams is going to be part of this team's future. I think he should be, and I think with the fact that he hasn't really broken out yet as a scorer, I don't think he's going to be demanding too much money. So I'll be looking to get that done sooner rather than later. Andre Drummond is a player that I forgot to mention in our roster recap, and he's not exactly an important part of this team, but I think he's going to be a fun backup center to use in this game. Like, his archetype of like burly glass cleaner is really annoying to play against, and he's fun to play with, and he grabs every board. He's impossible to back down, and he can rise up for dunks in traffic. I mean, I'd rather have him on my team than not. And players like him, like Bam Adebayo, I know he's a much better player, but whenever I play against Bam Adebayo in 2K, that man drops like 45 and 20 on my head with like 90% from the field. It's ridiculous. Like, there's nothing I can do to stop him. And they also have some pretty good, like, hard-nosed glue guys. Torrey Craig, he's on a cheap deal. And he can do a little bit of everything. He can shoot and defend. It's really all we need him to do. You know, that's about it for the comprehensive preseason outlook for the Chicago Bulls. Again, I chose the Bulls because of the iconic brand, but even more so, I chose it because the rebuild isn't really handed to us on a silver platter. You know, this team is directionless right now, and I will need to give the team a direction myself. I need to take matters into my own hands. And it'll be interesting to decide who on this roster I'm going to keep around and who to sell. Again, there's a chance that we put it together and like get into the playoff picture this year. But whatever success we have, it likely won't be sustainable. Again, thank you for coming to my channel. My name is Sliding Catch, and I care a lot about franchise mode. I've been doing this for as long as I can remember, and I've wanted to share the way that I play franchise mode with other people just because I know there's people out there that do it like me. Like I was directly inspired by my favorite YouTuber, Mr. Hurricane, and people that watch him are definitely gonna like what I do, assuming that I can carry out my vision the way I see it. You know, I want to keep episodes about 40 minutes to an hour long. I plan on playing one game and simulating 1 month every episode, just as a general schedule. I look forward to making this a super immersive experience, and I genuinely believe that it will be. I've been a fan of the attention to detail guys that work on 2K and make it a simulation experience like better than 2K could possibly make it themselves. I've been fans of those guys for many years. I've been using their rosters for over 3 years at this point. One of the guys in that group made a scenario for 2K24, well, for the 2023-2024 season for 2K23. So you may notice that I'm still in 2K23, but I genuinely believe that the experience on this game will be better than the experience in 2K24 at launch, because this roster, it's a game changer. It makes everything better. And I don't even plan on stopping there. I plan on using the attention to detail random event generator, meaning I plan on drawing random numbers from a spreadsheet that the ATD guys have made, which will just create a little bit of interesting, entertaining chaos. There's tons of these scenarios to just like spice up the league, because the computer's trades just aren't very realistic, and I want to avoid them really at all costs. So I'll have to make my own trades, and I'll be using this spreadsheet to help me. I plan on using the real 2024 draft class because I want Bronny James to come into the league. But after that, I plan on using Jeff Rule's fictional classes. They're super detailed. I think they are optimized for the attention to detail roster, which I really, really like. And like the scouting reports, I plan on incorporating them into my videos. For instance, if I'm going through the month of March in the NBA season, I'm going to be covering March Madness. You know, I'm going to be talking about what's happening in the in the scouting report that Jeff Rule has written for that draft class, and he's made 6 of them. So hopefully we'll get through all of them, and I'm really excited to see how those prospects turn out, because I know that they put a lot of effort into those classes at Operation Sports. So thank you for your work, guys. So yeah, I plan on just keeping it as realistic as possible. You know, in the playoffs, I plan on playing a game and simulating 2, so that I, like, once I get my rhythm back, like 2K can be a very easy game. Like, the computer is a very easy to exploit, and I don't want to just be using that to carry me to a championship. Like, I want player ratings to matter most. So For important games, I'll probably like put it on CPU versus CPU and just let it play out and watch it, and maybe even commentate it live. Like that might be really fun. Uh, but I think that'll be a way to make it more fair and make the experience a little longer, and a little bit more challenging. And I also want to do Sports Center style highlight shows. This is an idea that it's pretty ambitious, but I want to go into like other games and get some highlights of interesting stories that are going on. Like, for instance, if there's a big matchup like LeBron versus KD, or a star returning to their former arena, like Dame returning to Portland, or Harden returning to Philly after he gets traded. I'll be doing that. And I also want to do it for key playoff series like the finals and elimination games from as many playoff series as I can. And I really want to keep track of the whole league and just world build as much as I possibly can. As you can see, I have the real life Damian Lillard trade recreated here. And as a Blazers fan, it's a sad day. But I'm also really happy for Dame. In real life, I want to see him win a ring with the Bucks, but in this franchise, we're going to be trying to knock him out of the playoffs. But Damian Lillard is a Milwaukee Buck, and I have an idea. In real life, Jrue Holiday is rumored to be on the move very quickly after his trade to the Blazers. I think he could be a really good fit for the Bulls. And with Lonzo Ball out most of the year, and with this being DeRozan's last year on his contract, like, I think this is the year that you really need to... I think if you're not going to blow it up already, I think you need to go all out this year and just... I think you need to get one more piece, because right now I don't think we can compete with the Bucks, but if we get Jrue Holiday, I think it's possible. So I'm going to be trying to make that trade, and hopefully by the second episode I will have the details worked out, but I definitely have that on my radar. But anyway, I hope that sets the scene pretty well for this franchise. I look forward to this becoming a long series where I learn as I go, and I gain confidence on the mic. I know I've been stuttering and saying a lot, but hopefully that'll change with time. And I can't wait to get into this first game. We are playing the Washington Wizards, maybe the worst roster in the league. You know, there are a few teams competing for that, but as far as like future outlook goes, like, the Wizards are bad, and they also don't really have much to look forward to. So we'll have to see if they make me eat my words and beat us in our home opener, but it should be a fun second episode. Either way, that'll be all today. Thank you for tuning in. Anyone who did, hopefully you liked it enough to tune in for my next one coming out hopefully soon. And I still have to figure out how to edit and know all that good stuff. But I hope to just, again, learn as I go, and make this the franchise experience that I've always wanted. So once again, I'm Slide and Catch, and I hope you have a good night, and I'll see you in the next one.